From our studios in Scottsdale, Arizona, this is Retirement News Online. So when most people think about retirement, they focus on saving. But the real challenge begins when the paychecks actually stop. Income planning is about turning your nest egg into a steady stream of income that you can count on for the rest of your life. And here to join us to talk about this is Greg Belger. You're in St. Louis, Missouri. Gregory, thanks for talking with us today. And I guess we'll start out with mistakes people make. So we talked about that in the intro. They focus in on saving, right, accumulating. But you know, when it comes to creating income in retirement, what do you see? What's a real common mistake that they make?
You know, I think that the biggest mistake is people don't realize how they're going to actually access that income, right? You have different buckets. Some of the money will be non-taxable to you, some of it will be taxable. So they don't understand how it's going to affect them and how much income they're actually going to take home. You know, in that paycheck, we had net pay, then we had gross pay. So when you're accessing your income, how do you want to access it? How will that affect you from your tax liabilities? And you know, what's the efficient way to go about it, and planning on what you can actually depend on to be consistent for the next 20 years.
You know, and when people, like now, if you're 65 and you're healthy, data tells us that if you don't have any serious health conditions, you're going to be around to maybe 90. So we're talking 25, 30 years of retirement. So with that equation, there's inflation. You know, people start losing buying power. So when you're focusing in on an income plan, how do you account for that?
Well, you know, people are living longer. I'm glad you brought that up because most people think after they're done, it's all done, but it's actually not. So the fact that you're living longer, what I like to focus on is making sure that we're maximizing every account. You know, you might have bought something 10 or 15, 20 years ago when you were working and you're still contributing. Now you're no longer working, no longer contributing. And believe it or not, I have clients that have been with me over a decade. They simply forget about those accounts. So it's always good, just like you go get your annual checkup, to get a checkup and see how we can maximize it, because the economy changes, the company changes, plans changes, even our tax laws change, and we want to make sure that we're getting the most out of it.
You know, I think most people go into, again, they start accumulating, they get to a number, and they think, so if their advisor follows the 4% rule, which is not uncommon, that's, you know, taking out 4% of your savings on an annual basis, and you won't run out of money, apparently. But when we're talking about 25, 30, 35 years in retirement, we got to do better than that. So how do you make sure that income lasts as long as they do and beyond?
Well, that 4% rule is just quite frankly outdated, right? And a lot of people just don't know. So the first thing we want to do is understand what you have and understand how we can stretch it and maximize it. There's many different strategies that can be used, but oftentimes it depends on your lifestyle, how you want to live, what your expenses are. The first thing I like to go over with clients is, what are your monthly expenses and what are any big expenses we can expect to foresee? Then I'll take everything you have, and then we start to work with strategies on each individual account to make sure that you have that money for a lifetime, if at all possible.
And I think, you know, lastly, too, would it be accurate to say that when people think about retirement planning and investing, they're focusing in on equities and drawing down equities. But a lot of the things that you talk about, at least some of them, when it comes to generating income that will last, we're not talking about stocks only, because there are other things that you need to leverage, right?
Absolutely. I mean, most people only know because of their 401k, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, even REITs, right? But they don't really understand what that means. So when you come into our office and when you meet with me, I like to do the hand holding, because my job is to point out things that you don't know, right? You have things you think you know, but I'm here to see things that you don't necessarily see, not because I'm smarter than you, it's just simply because I do it every single day with 1,000 clients.
One more question, and this is for the, you know, for the prospects and people watching here. So when they're working with a broker, for example, that's kind of a one-dimensional relationship. They're just talking about accumulating. How does somebody know if they have the right advisor who's going to help them with income planning?
Well, you know, when most people, I always ask them, are you working with someone else? It's a very common thing. About 65% of the people that I see already have someone else, and that's okay. But how do you keep them honest? Well, you get a second opinion, right? You say, hey, I love my guy, it's great. But then when you go and get a good, clean bill of health by coming and see us, I will point through, I would love to say, hey, this is a great account, this is a great account. And then what we do is we look at the 10-year performance of that account, and we look at the projections, things that you may not even look at by simply looking at a statement. Why? Because it's not located on the statement. So the way you keep that guy honest is just say, hey, I came to your workshop, Greg, or I saw you speak. give me a second opinion. Let me know I'm in a good bill of health and show me some things maybe I'm not seeing. And that's how you're truly confident in your plans.
He is an advisor and obviously a teacher as well. Gregory Belger in St. Louis, Missouri. Thanks for watching Retirement News Online.